Hello again, Ian Stokey with Mastermind Games back again. This time, painting Burna Boyz from the Orc faction Warhammer 40,000. 09035 olive green to start with. So, I have tried to upload the video for my Battlegrounds line of terrain Forests 1 conifers to a separate channel just for Mastermind Games content, and it did not work well at all, so screw it. Just going to put all the content on this one channel and roll with that. To be perfectly honest, my next exclusively Mastermind Games video would have been at least 6 months off anyway, so... And start with this olive green, a nice orky skin tone. Am I even on camera? No, I'm not on camera. It's been too long since I've done one of these, but aside from trying to get a video on a new channel that just didn't work out, I've had other insane crap to deal with outside of home, specifically at the day job. And I think I assembled these guys wrong, because that hose should connect there. Well, I'll get the next batch right. I will eventually max this out. And I'm basing this color scheme off another G.I. Joe character, or to be more specific, Cobra character, the Incinerator, another late release character, Cobra's flamethrower. G.I. Joe had like 4 or 5 of them, but Cobra just had the one, and this guy is a spanner. Used to be a mech, but it's heavy support. This kit can also be used to make ludas. But anyway, I was at one point thinking about nicknaming this squad the Fry Cooks and giving them a Ronald McDonald inspired paint scheme, but decided I'd rather just limit myself a little more and focus on just 1 or 2 pieces of 80s and 90s cheese. Yeah, I think the fingers. And this guy's got a custom Mega Blaster, which is pretty much a plasma gun that's always on overcharge. And GW has finally announced the Orcs Codex, so I'm going to have to wait a few more months to finally see what their relics and warlord traits and tactics are. I'm not completely sure I got this guy glued together right either. Some of these kits are a little ambiguous on how exactly it's supposed to fit. But okay. This mech, though, doesn't seem to be wearing a shirt. Come to think of it, though, I haven't seen too many bare-chested orc models thus far. Not outside of the Gretchen, anyway. Would think that faction of big brawny guys like this would have fewer shirts among them, but Just kind of hearing myself talk since I don't have an audience that can talk back during this one. And the idea of live streaming a painting session really doesn't appeal to me, because that'd be a lot of drying time, which depends on humidity in the air, how hot it is. When it's nice and hot and dry, paints will dry really fast too, but if it's colder or wet, it takes longer. Or is that supposed to be part of the hat? That's alright. Oh. I guess the orc heads here are kind of flat on top anyway. And I am still keeping an eye out for a better camera. I'm still having trouble finding one that I can just wear into a first-person POV with. I haven't seen one that'll actually do that I can actually afford, and GoPro would work, but again, that's just way out of my price range. I don't want to pay that much for something that's going to stay plugged into a stationary computer anyway. This guy's almost got a RoboCop visor. And saw the Han Solo movie the other day. I liked that quite a bit. And I would agree with the crowd that says Disney needs to slow down on the Star Wars movies. I like them, but don't want to oversaturate by giving too much too soon. It'd be almost like if GW tried to do a new faction every month for 2 years. Should that drive everybody nuts too? Okay. Alright. I think I'm gonna hold off on that for now. Oh, wait a minute. I think this is supposed to be the top of the head here. Let's double check that real quick. And if he's got a full head. Full hat. Okay. Okay, let that dry. Come back in a bit. Okay. 09006 Fire Orange. And this is going to be the cloth color, or at least the primary cloth color anyway. Fly decided to land on the model here. I missed the top of his shirt. so you can barely see it under the fuel tank there. Okay. And something to note about color selection and how many to use. Well, that's going to vary by model. If you're looking to win contests, most miniature painting contests I've heard of require a minimum of 3 colors. So that's something I personally try to go by. Nuts. Yeah, I've got no grip today. It's been a really rough week. About to lose my mind at the day job. Not only because I've had to not only miss my cousin's wedding this week and which is also my one big event a year where I get to see my extended family, but I've had to miss out on my own personal game night with my friends this week, all to cover for a supervisor with a very bad habit of verbally abusing whoever's handy, usually me, every time she's in a bad mood. And so just so that she can take another vacation where I've had to push my own back twice already to accommodate. And unfortunately, management above her thus far has refused to do anything, but there is a new manager just took over the store, so he's going to get his one chance, but I'm about at my limit with this. It's one thing to go into a bad, boring, uninteresting job. It's another to go into that same job and get verbally abused for little to no reason just because a supervisor just decides to make you her own personal punching bag, which I can't think of any job where someone's actually paid to have that happen to them on a daily basis. And the spanner here isn't wearing a shirt. But I'll go ahead and make that pouch hanging off his backpack a bright orange too. Yeah, sorry about the little rant. That's more my personal life than I usually talk about, but this has been a horrendous week for me. Okay, that's got the orange. Gonna need to let that dry before moving on to the next color. Okay, next 09004 Fire Red. This one's almost cash, but I got a spare. Come on. Okay. A new pot of paint always requires extra shaking. And I added a second layer of the orange. I'll do this off camera. I'll do the same to the red here. And again, that's an effect of the black primer I tend to use. But you'll see the difference between black and white primers once my Relic Knight 2nd Edition Kickstarter rewards get here and I start painting those up. But again, using black primer will result in darker colors overall, while white will result in brighter. And let's see here. So I suppose I haven't talked about what the Burna Boyz actually are. Named after their weapons, obviously they're flamethrower specialists. But the Orc Burna also doubles as a cutting torch. So when they attack, they can pick between, or no, that's old edition. So basically, an above average flamethrower for a ranged option that transitions into a decent melee weapon for close combat. Just deciding what parts of this Waller's mask to do what color. Looks like this particular orc's got a gas mask component to it as well. And some of the armor's going to get picked out in a third color. Well, I mentioned a Ronald McDonald-inspired color scheme earlier. Another one that came to mind was dominated by silver, based off a character from one of the Lethal Weapon movies, I think part 3. Opens up with a guy in a shiny silver suit and a flamethrower trying to torch the town with one of the heroes. I think he was played by Danny Glover. I haven't seen this movie in a long time. Stripping down to his underwear and clucking like a chicken at the behest of his partner, I think was played by Mel Gibson, to distract the maniac while the other hero, so the other hero could get a shot at the fuel tank strapped to this guy's back. And it would be a running gag to that movie that they keep teasing him about the Chicken Man stunt he got talked into. Yeah, just kind of looking at some of these armored bits and figuring out what I want in which color. This one's got that little loincloth coming off. Am I even on camera? Okay. I already said it once this video, but if anybody can recommend a decent model of camera that I can wear to do first-person point-of-view videos, that information would be much appreciated. And I think I'll do that little patch on that leg as duct tape. I mean, come on, duct tape totally fits orcs normally anyway. Wouldn't surprise me if there was an orc subcult of duct tape. A little more paint. Okay, and this one's got chains instead of leather straps, so we'll do those in some other color later. Let's see here. And some parts of this mask will be done in a different color later. Oddly enough, it looks like some of the skin tone on this arm isn't completely dry. That's really weird considering I did the skin tone last night and it's been over 8 hours. That's a little, This one's also got a secondary loincloth. Something like this, I imagine, is going to be just for style. As even orcs have their own sense of fashion, such as it is. And yeah, I am just kind of grabbing models at random. So, the presence of the spanner in the Burna Boyz unit is just fire support, pretty much. 1 in 5 boys can be replaced with a spanner in this unit, and aside from getting access to the custom mega weapons, I think it's on souped up list right now. I'm not certain, but they also can repair orc vehicles. It's an auto thing, if I remember right. Just automatically get to pull a wound off of vehicle within a set range, which mechs can do as well. And in older editions, these were called mechs, but they changed the wording, and that is fine. And I think I will go ahead and use the red for the scabbard his wrench is hanging out of. Another thing about this kit is it can also make lutas. And since the spanner can take a heavy weapon instead of a custom mega weapon, it also has variant scopes for the big shooter and rocket launcher. Though oddly enough, not all the parts necessary to give him that gear. It's kind of odd, but still the parts are cross-compatible with other kits, so you got that going for it. Okay, last Burna Boy. And I need a little more paint. This hobby, as expensive as the paints can get, it's better to do just a bit at a time, in my opinion. Because you can always get more out of your bottles if you don't have enough right away. And so apparently certain colors in the Reaper Master Series I'm using are getting phased out. So I'll be gradually switching over to Army Painter and that brand is still a basic acrylic like this and would be compatible. Make sure I'm in camera. Been slipping on that. Another good reason to switch over to first-person POV videos as soon as I can A, find a camera that'll let me do that, and B, get the money to buy one. So last time I had the money, other stuff came up before I found a camera that would do what I needed it to do. Then I check some of these tanks here. Some markings. Okay, just the one looks like. I am picking out these plates for a specific reason. I intend to put U.S. Department of Transportation flammable hazard markings on these. And I'll explain why in... Well, actually, I've got some cool things I can do real quick. I can do the teeth. So, go with, where is it? 09143 yellowed bone. So, I haven't said much about this madness-inducing day job, but I've pretty much had it, so I am a Walmart claims associate. That means I deal with the broken, damaged stuff all day. And with the negligence I make up for, I'm surprised the store I work at has neither blown up nor burned it down yet. Do these as teeth. Because that's something an orc could totally do. But, yeah. My problem with that company, it's not the work itself. It's a bit dull, but it's okay. I find it's only maybe a quarter to a third of the customers that are poorly behaved. My real problem is the management. A lot of them are abusive. It's just this big tirade to do more with and for less. And the company punishes competence. I bust my butt day in, day out to give them what they need, and I just get dumped on for it. Dumped on to do more, dumped on because they think I should do friggin' everything. I also act as a troubleshooter, taking care of stuff that isn't getting done as needed. And there is a lot, because quite frankly that company will be lucky if in the next few years they can get some cracked out bum on the street, off of the street working for them, let alone it's someone with half a brain. Harsh, but that's what's going on there. Every nasty rumor you're going to hear is about what it's like to work with there is probably going to be an understatement. Didn't want to say much, but again, this week I've had to miss out on a lot of my personal life, and my boss has been, well, supervisor, has been particularly abusive. And it hurts bad that I had to miss out on a big family event, specifically this wedding, just so she could take another vacation when she has already, this is her roughly third week this year, and she has another one coming up. And I've already had to postpone and push back my first vacation twice to accommodate her. I'll tell you right now, Walmart's, they change management about as often as most people change clothes, and an agreement you make with one manager is not going to apply to any other. That's the first time I've really talked about it, but this has been an absolutely horrible week for me, from missing out on stuff, and the stress, and not getting any respect for these sacrifices in my personal life. In fact, getting abused for giving them what they ask for. 09161 Shield Brown. This last one's smoking. In fact, his visor, which was a separate piece, can be flipped down to accommodate his cigar. We'll just do that real quick. Yeah. Like I said, this has been a rough week, and the exhaustion issues I've been having have been one of the biggest obstacles to getting things on these videos and my business done. It's kind of hard to paint or make a mold or sculpt when you're so exhausted you can barely get yourself up your stairs. Okay. Sorry about that rant, but it's been a rough one. Okay. Gonna let that all dry, get the next color in a little bit. Okay, it's been a few days since I've been able to work on this. Got the wrong paint. 0920, no, that's not it either. There we go. 09206 Tarnished Steel. It's been a very rough week again. So, but I've got my new set available for sale on the store. So, again, that link's below. Been putting my focus on getting that new set cast and ready for sale, because that's my way out of that madness-inducing job I mentioned earlier. And this on the tanks. And I'll be picking out some of these details like that face and other colors after this dries. This is the last major color. Everything else is just going to be a little bit here and there. And I have finished the Beast Arises series now, but overall a good read, but I feel the last book was kind of rushed. Maybe there should have been a 13th volume. But that's my opinion. Now the only question is, on these Warhammer books, where do I go from here? Well, don't know, but I'll figure it out. I might pick out some of these symbols in another color later. This right here is where one of my friend's criticisms of Warhammer models comes into play. Where you've got these great details on the chests that are usually covered up by a very large firearm of some kind. See? Yeah. This one just has a velveteen of this pipe that his squad mate doesn't have. The gloves these Burna Boyz are wearing, to me, look a whole lot like oven mitts, actually. Huh. Maybe I should have based their color scheme off the Keebler L's. see if I... Where's my paint? There it is. Dang it. I think I forgot to do the... Yep, I did. Fix that real quick. Get the butts there of the... Okay, got his. The Burna. Okay. I'm really trying hard not to miss any details on the first go around. he's got a patch on his pants. We'll just make that silver, duct tape silver. Just 2 models left now. More paint. And this one's about shot. And the paperclip I was using has been buried, so Make sure I'm in camera. A little more paint, and that just leaves the spanner to finish up. It might be enough. The spanner actually has pieces of armor bolted directly into his skin. Let's see if I can get his cleats, yeah. What's kind of funny about this particular model is, well, it came with a big shooter and rocket launcher for the heavy weapons it could also take. It didn't have all the parts it needed to take them. For example, both weapons, they have an offhand. That wasn't included. It would have to have come from a Boyz kit, which, that strikes me as very odd. They'd give you those alternate sculpts, these pieces for these other weapons, but not give you all the pieces needed to actually put them on the model. My assumption is that GW was assuming that Orcs players would have this stuff already, but what if burners were your first kit? You wanted to give their spanner a rocket launcher instead of the custom mega shooter, or custom mega blaster, sorry. And while taking a spanner is optional, the kit doesn't actually have any, it doesn't have the parts to turn this guy into a 5th Burna Boy, actually. So fielding a squad exclusively of Burnas would mean more, buying more kits. Personally, I think War Machine and Malifaux do this better in Warhammer sometimes, especially in swarm armies like Orcs. You need multiple kits to max out your squads. War Machine, they've shifted to only selling in maximum size squads now, and Malifaux, which just uses independent models exclusively, each kit comes with pretty much the exact number of any given model you could field at maximum. but that is a relatively minor gripe. This is what it is. I just think it's kind of odd that GW chooses to do it this way. Turns it on into almost a scavenger hunt for the parts you want to a certain extent. Okay. Alright, that's got it, so let that dry and move on to the last few base coats. Okay. Let's get some wires. 09008 Sun Yellow. And I'm going to be doing a second coat of this off camera. What I'm going to do is finish up these base coats and then just do second coats and some touch-ups off camera before I start the shading. But, okay. And the toy that I'm basing this paint scheme off was colored in orange, red, silver, and black, but I find black to be overall a color that should be used sparingly, not excessively. That's personal taste. I like brighter colors. That's me. But at least I finally found how to do a decent black that looks okay. That was something that's been giving me trouble for a long, long time. Alright, let's see here. Okay, that looks pretty good on the spanner. Yeah, one staple of the 1980s G.I. Joes across the board, aside from strings, were black hoses of assorted sizes connecting accessories. Just gonna go ahead and put some random criticism of the U.S. toy industry in here. I feel a lot of companies in general are not taking enough risks, at least not the right kinds, choosing to go with proven successes and endlessly reincarnating proven hits like Transformers and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as opposed to trying anything new. In the 80s and 90s, there was a ton of stuff. A lot of it was hit and miss. Nobody knew what was going to succeed or not, but at least they were trying new things. Companies today are too afraid of failure. They don't take risks that might push them up to the next level. So, any other entrepreneurs out there, well, if you take a risk, you might end up failing. You also might end up succeeding. Even if you fail, that doesn't mean you can't try again. Heck, it took me 2 years to get my first prototypes ready for Mastermind Games. No, yeah, and that's after having to start over from scratch when my original prototypes were just not what I wanted. My new forest set I just released took a year to make. I was trying to push it out in 6 months, but one setback after another, and that happens. Things don't always go according to plan. You can either give up or pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and try again. Okay. I'm going to dab this off this wrapping now and do it in a different color. Okay, that gets hoses. (09110) oiled leather. As I get closer to being finished, I just am taking more caution, making sure I don't miss anything. just covered up the lens I picked out earlier. Let's just fix that out. No fix it. I'll have to go back and repaint that, then that's okay. This one has an astonishing lack of duct tape for an orc. Make sure I'm on camera. Yes, orc technology, because nothing says safe and reliable like taping or tying pieces together to make a gun. Okay. Okay. Now, one more color. It's going to be 09197 Old Bronze. And with this, I'm mostly going to be picking out a few details here and there in the metal. So... I think I'll take a little more of that yellow and pick out that lightning bolt on this weapon here, this custom Mega Blaster. It seems decent. Another fun little factoid about the character I'm basing this paint scheme off is it came with a little catapult. Yeah, a character that's supposed to be a flamethrower for a snake-themed terrorist organization, and it comes with a catapult. The later characters in the 1980s, 90s G.I. Joe line did get pretty weird. Of course, we are talking about a toy line where the primary antagonists were a group of terrorists whose leader had a snake fetish. Okay, 2 more, then I'll be calling it good and getting ready to do some touch-ups. Last one. Actually, that's pretty good. Okay. That's base coats. I'll do some touch-ups off camera and start shading. Okay, time to start shading. I'll start with the brown, 09109 Ruddy Leather. Missed his little headband there. Just get that out of the way. Okay, I guess that's all the brown on him. And he doesn't have any. Uh, 09160 Woodstain Brown. That is not right. You see right here, that's too much mixing medium, not enough paint. So I didn't mix it correctly. And you see here, that's much better. Not mixed thoroughly enough, just right. Not that I need all much of this, since all that's going on is his cigar. And what else can I do right this minute? How about 09196H Pewter? And the trick with shading is you can only do so much at once, even less so than with base coats, because when you're using this much water, the colors, the paint will blend together even more than when it's normally diluted. Again, with this, you're doing about half water, half paint, maybe more, but colors will blend together. You actually can work with that to get various effects. But if you don't want colors to blend, you just have to slow yourself down and do smaller sections. So here's an example. Maybe I should have waited a bit before doing this. I didn't think about that, but I'm just going to roll with it and see what happens. It looks funky. Well, these are orcs. They do have pretty funky tech in the first place. Alright. No, this might be pressed my luck. We'll try it anyway. 09007 Marigold Yellow. Well, good grief. Okay, that should be enough to do the job. So, it's going to be the last one I do before I let this dry, but there's a topic going on the internet on YouTube I want to address. So it looks like the last couple of days the internet's been blowing up against a YouTuber and video game developer calling himself Yandere Dev. And he's working on a video game where you're basically playing a psychotic schoolgirl in love, trying to get the man of your dreams through any means necessary. He's been working on it for a long time. He's hit a lot of roadblocks, and he's been getting a lot of hate lately. I'm just gonna say, leave the guy alone. It's unlikely I'll ever play his game, but I do follow its development because I see him as a kindred spirit. Did something similar with my own business, and it is not easy to make something from the ground up. It took me 3 years of work before I was even able to open up my store and get my first products on there. That's after having to start over from scratch about 2 years in, when my original prototypes just did not turn out right. Even on the forest set I just released, it took almost a year to do the sculpting and mold making, and I had to restart on the trees at the last minute when the original prototypes for those turned out just too bulky and clunky. I just screwed up there. And the set I've already started on is going to be after the forests. I had to start from scratch on that too when the original try just turned out to, or was turning out, just too chunky and bulky and awkward. So, to his detractors I say, just be patient, and if you don't like the game, stop griping about it. A lot of stuff is just personal taste, good grief. Okay, need a little more paint. And to Yandere Dev, I'd say maybe slow down on adding new features and just focus on one section of it at a time instead of just getting so excited that you keep this constant feature creep. I've got a whole book, several pages in a journal full of ideas for future Battlegrounds terrain sets. I have to force myself to slow down and just do one at a time, because I know if I get all excited I'll end up with a bunch of half-finished projects and none that are actually ready for mold making. So, it just bothers me when I see somebody trying and working so hard and just getting dumped on by random people out there who, quite frankly, don't care. Alright, gonna let that dry, move on in a bit. Alright, let's see which one next. I think Blackened Steel 09205. I'll just go ahead and start with a spanner here. Get his standard shaded in on. And this is the stage where I can only do one color at a time now. Oops. That's the bronze. I gotta watch that. Okay. Being careful around this lightning bolt symbol here. Okay. Cleats on his boots. Alright. Being real careful, real patient around the signs on his fuel tank. I'm not going to worry too much about the underside of his mask, but I'm going to give it a little attention. His belt buckle and his armory's not got a whole lot, just a little disc that's barely visible. Okay. that's bronze right there. Not going to worry about highlighting some of this armor that's kind of covered by the Burna, but I will at least shade it. And 3 down. Little dot inside the goggles there. Okay, so getting the underside like this is not easy. It just takes a lot of patience and practice. And so next time I get some Burna Boyz to flesh out this unit, I'm going to have to put the backpacks on first. I think it says do that in a later step, but it's critical to get the arms right. So the instructions are not always right. Let's see, I don't really get, yeah. Get the knuckles on that hand there. That offhand for his Burna there. Whoop, almost dropped him. So, you know, I ranted a minute ago about my feelings on this whole Yandere dev situation with all the negativity that's been popping up, but I might do a separate video about that. But it really bothers me to see a fellow creative type just getting abused and bullied by detractors. We are in the age of the internet, where everybody who's inclined, where every loudmouth inclined to has a megaphone, a captive audience, and little to no accountability for their actions. The anonymity of the internet protecting them. I feel there needs to be a little more positivity. Like I said, stuff like this, it's not easy. Me, I've got over 20 years experience painting these models. But I only make this look easy. Like I said on my forest set, I had to redo the trees at the last minute. My original prototypes didn't pan out at all, and I had to start from scratch, not just on the sculpting, but with the concept of what I was going to make and how I was going to sell it. This guy's got duct tape on his pants there. And the set I'm working on next, I had to start over from scratch on. It's easy to get frustrated. It's easy for things to take more time than you think it will. Does not help when got everybody and their goldfish screaming at you. Okay, that's done. Let's see, did I miss any steel? No. Alright, and that's touching so many other colors, I'm going to have to wait a minute before I move on to the next. So just cut now, come back in a bit. Alright. And I immediately forgot what I was going to do. Oh boy, it's going to be one of those days. Okay. 09003 Blood Red. Since I'm sure this big pile of pinkish orange is going to raise some comments, I'll just answer that right now. As I said, it took 3 tries to get the molds on my trees right. Those are the shred remains of the failed molds. No point in keeping them around since they don't work. And I'd rather not have a intact mold in a landfill somewhere where someone may end up trying to plagiarize based off of it. So didn't actually realize that was in frame when I hit record. Boy, that was luck. And you know, this Spanner's Gauntlet here reminds me an awful lot of an old Nintendo Power Glove. If you don't mind obscenity that would put South Park to shame, I recommend looking up the Angry Video Game Nerd's review of it. Just making sure I don't miss anything before I move on to his boots. Again, on shading, you want to go with the highest area to lowest in general. But I also try to do just one color at a time in its entirety before moving on to the next as well, which just helps me keep track of what I have and have not yet done. Okay. I'm gonna blot out that little bit of red that got onto his bag there, or at least try to. That's why I keep the paper towel on hand. Really need to work on my camera work. Really need to get a better camera too again, but I'm having a bit of trouble finding one I like. Outside of a GoPro anyway, which is way more than I want to. Dang it. Well, that was another cold call. My advice to everyone out there, get the quick link to the Federal Trade Commission's reporting website favorited on your browser. Got a quick form you can fill out to get these jerks, what's the word? Charged. As in legal charges. So if you're on the do not call list like I am, they legally are not allowed to cold call you. Right. I completely lost track of what I was talking about. So couldn't have been that important. Oh yeah, now I remember cameras. But yeah, a GoPro may work, but that's way more money than I want to spend on what I essentially consider a side project. But still looking for something I can just wear, do first-person point of view shots with. I know they're out there. I've seen them on other YouTube videos. I just don't know which model or brand of camera they are. Be real careful around the knuckles here. I want this to go in between those spikes, not on them. I'll say it again because it's funny. The protective gloves these orcs are wearing do look an awful lot like oven mitts to a certain extent. I need a little more paint. Just 2 more boys left. This is going to be particularly tricky. I want to get the red, not the silver or the bone. And I just dipped my paper towel in my paint. Oh boy. So, this is the last orc video I'm going to have for a while. As I've said before, my focus is going to be on maxing out units before I start getting new ones. So, there's that. I also want to grind down my painting queue quite a bit before I start getting new models in mass anyway, since I do have my Relic Knights Kickstarter rewards coming up in the next couple of months. I still have a bunch of Malifaux and War Machine models as well. So, got a few Ultramarines models still, Space Marines, but it is gonna be a while before I hit some orcs again. I'll probably do something around the time that they get their new codex, which has finally been announced. A little bit of red on the silver there. Let's go ahead and try to get the teeth too. Stained Ivory 09142. If I'm shaking, it's because I got a kink in my arm. It's been happening a lot lately. Been pushing myself way too hard at the day job, and not hard enough here. And he's just got a couple on his belt. That should leave just the orange and this flesh. So let that dry, finish up shading in a bit. Okay. 09005 Phoenix Red, and hopefully I don't have any freaking cold calls this time. What I found out what's great about those I found out is when you answer your phone as a business, they tend to hang up immediately. This one is about to shout, but I don't need much. And there we go. In fact, I'd actually turn my phone off while recording these if they didn't take so long and I didn't actually have a home business I need to monitor and keep tabs on. And this is going to be used to shade the orange here. And this orange is pretty much just on shirts and pants here. And most of the shirts are covered up by equipment, so there you have it. I'm also pretty sure some of these torso and leg sculpts are the identical from the standard boys kit, so reusing of parts, but keeping the brush nice and wet for this stage. last one. Okay, let that dry and then finish up with the green skin tone there. Move on to highlights and detail. Okay, last shade, 09034 Muddy Olive. And starting off with a badly clogged nozzle. And a pot of paint that just doesn't want to go. Well, that might be enough, actually. And arbitrarily picking the spanner to start on. You know, I thought at first he was just chewing on this bolt, but maybe it's actually screwed into his jaw. Uncertain. To be fair, it wouldn't surprise me either way. I just noticed it looks like I've missed some armor. I'll have to touch that up off camera then. It's okay. Gotta watch myself. Want to get the paint on the model, not in my hands. And the rest of the Burna Boyz have even less skin shown than the spanner does. Actually, now that I think about it, very few Warhammer models show any skin at all. Space Marines, maybe the head. I suppose the Drakari show the most, but I don't collect them. To be fair, I don't have much interest in them at all, but if I run out of factions to collect in my other games and Warhammer, then maybe. last one. Okay, there's a couple more things to do real quick. So 09037, pure black. Gonna real quick get some barrels here. Just gonna dot it over. Whoop, almost dropped them. Just dotting it on there carefully. And when I think about it, I should do that too. Whoa! Whoa! Trying to run away. That too. So mechanically speaking, this secondary tank would put a pilot light out here, and then the main stream of flame would come from fuel from the canisters and shot straight out over the pilot light. That little slit there. Okay. Now I'm going to take pure white 09039. Just a bit. Kind of doing this as a wash over this part of the spanner's head apparatus. That's going to be the recipient of a lighting effect. And it looks like the metal bits I wanted to redo are almost dry now, so I'll go ahead and take Tarnished Steel 09206 real quick and start on that. Don't need a whole lot, it's just a little bit on his knuckle here that I missed, and a little bit on his shoulder here. And we'll go ahead and pick out that symbol on the gauntlet and just a few little extra details there real quick while I'm at it. A little more. The white. Don't know if I'm actually in camera on that. Fix that. Just a little more of the white on there. I'll lighten that up for the lighting effect I do, so okay. Leave it at that for now, and then I'm going to be starting the highlighting soon. Alright, let's see, where do I want to go? Doing some eyes, 09003 blood red. Let's start with a spanner. Let's do the one eye here. And you know what? Yeah, let's go ahead. I take some of that pure white again. Didn't even think about this earlier. Dab this on over his bionic eye next to him. Boy. Alright. Can't see his eyes. close and hope it's in focus. Again, my rig for recording the computer is behind me, so I can't really see. There's not any other way to set this up, not with the space I have. And he's got goggles on, and you can't see his eyes. Okay. I'm gonna pull out another color on my little chest of drawers behind me. If I can find the right one in the next minute and a half. I've managed to bury most of my computer in half-finished projects. I'm in the middle of cleaning up, actually, while I wait for paint to dry, but it's a long process. There we go, that's the one I need. Okay, 09103 Emerald Green. Tiny dot of that, not a whole lot. Might be diluted too. Oh, great. Put it right on the white I just put out. Oh boy. Let's try that again. Tiny dot of the paint. Dilute. Water. Does not look quite right. I'm cleaning my brush more thoroughly. Sometimes oddball things like this happen, and what should be going don't. So trying again. In fact, I'll go ahead and just blot this out with the towel. Okay. Give that a chance to dry while I start on the, oh, I think the teeth actually. So that's not it. 09144 Creamy Ivory. Taking straight paint and just brushing it on the paper towel till it looks like there's almost nothing left. And lightly dusting the areas to be affected. Try that out thoroughly. And pale olive 09036. Gotta be careful not to pinch my humerus on the armrest of my chair here. That's caused a lot of problems in previous videos. I'm deliberately doing the spanner last to give that thing on his head more time to dry. I'd hate to interrupt this video for another drying session, but I will if I have to. Zero 09007 Marigold Yellow. This is one that's almost cached. It's critical to have a very dry brush, hence the name of the technique. I'm mostly going to be concerned about the readily visible areas of the orange here. Use a little more straight paint than we would to get that dark patch there. I think the red's going to be next, but first let's see how this is going. Yeah, I'm going to have to let that dry a little more before I move on, so just going to have to wait a bit. Okay, 09005 Phoenix Red. Well, is this the last hurrah for this one? Yep, there's a little life left in it. Well, That might be enough. We'll just have to see. Where's my brush? Again, I'm more concerned about the readily visible surfaces. Make sure I'm in camera for at least some of this. As I said, I don't exactly have the best rig for this, but I'm gonna have to work with what I got till I can find, find and afford the tools to make it better. Gonna need more paint. Not exactly the most appetizing of sounds. I'm trying to avoid his metal eyes. I get the metal plates coming out of his head. And you'll see that banner kind of wiggling a bit. That does not exactly inspire confidence in me, but some of these parts are kind of flimsy, but I've got some Malifaux models coming up that are even worse. Talk about that when I come to them, though. Okay. Let's go ahead and take some lemon yellow 09009, hit the cables next. You know, cables, hoses, whatever you feel like calling them. Got both anyway. Let's see, 09198 tarnished brass. Do the bronze next, I think. Make sure the brush is nice and dry. It's a nice hot day, so the paint's drying more swiftly than usual. And I hear some neighbors talking down below. There's some iconography on this. Let's do a light dry brush here and make it stand out just a tiny bit. And really to determine when you're finished is just you yourself looking at a model and saying, I am satisfied. Because really when you're doing this, the only opinion that matters is yours, that of the artist painting. Be open to criticism, well, constructive criticism anyway. I mean, you know, internet trolls and all that don't really count as criticism, just people being as nasty as possible for their own sick amusement, I suppose. But in the end, you are your only judge on, you know, when you feel you're finished. Sometimes you might just have to say, enough's enough. You've been, you know, chipping away at it for a while. Okay, let's see, how about 09207 True Silver. Am I on camera? No, I need to go a little higher. It is so hard to tell with this thing. I said I don't have exactly the best setup for this, but I don't have much choice either. I eventually upgrade from my condo to a house. I can definitely rework this a bit, but got some pretty tight space limitations here on where I can put what to work around. Just a little bit of shine in the goggles there. And let's see, I need to double check all these guys and make sure that I'm picking out, or at least ready to pick out, any gauges that appear on their gear. Gonna be doing that as one of the last details I hit on these guys. Might need a little more paint, but right about that if I run out. Okay, he's got a gauge. I guess there's only two of them to worry about. actually do a bit of this on this apparatus here too. It's not too bad, okay. Take a little more of that blood red and fill in the gauges really quick, or at least part one of it. Now I am more than capable of doing this in multiple colors, but since the orcs love red so much, I'm gonna fill the whole thing in with red, so it's always in the red. Because red makes it go faster. 09111 burnt orange. Clogged nozzle. I do not want another blow up. I've not been mindful enough of those, and I've had way too many lately. And this thing is really plugged up. Yowza. Let's see if that works well enough. Okay, that'll do. And there's not that much of this. Not every orc has this. This is on the leather wrapped components. And that red I couldn't quite get out earlier is giving a neat effect right here on the bag. So that's the kind of little thing that can work out even if it's unintentional. Well, I think I am just about done. Do need to take Driftwood Brown 09162. And somebody's yelling at something. Someone out there. Got a little close to the camera. That keeps up. I might need to grab my phone and calling a police officer. Can I get his cigar here? Okay, I gotta see what's going on. Somebody frustrated with her dog. Good grief. Err on the side of patience when dealing with an animal, especially a pet you happen to be cohabitating with. Alright, where am I at? Okay. That's pretty much it for highlighting a little detail touch-up. So Fire Orange 09006. Just a tiny dot. Oh, the nozzle's plugged up, that's why. Yeah, if it seems like I've kind of been talking strangely, slaughtering my English these last few videos, it's because I've been completely and thoroughly exhausted from that day job I mentioned earlier, which has been all the worse from being pretty much verbally abused by my direct supervisor. And yeah, That always makes a tough job all the harder, affecting my ability to speak and do basic things. 09037 Pure Black. That was the last coat of paint. Just going to go around the edges of the base with this, covering up any little boogers like that right there. And this is just completely arbitrary color choice. On most other games I collect and play, I usually do this with some faction-appropriate color. I just couldn't think of something for the Warhammer model, so that's what it is. Let's see, where's the guy with the, yeah, right here. That last guy there, Old Smoky, is a little special because I've got to do some freehand markings. Go ahead and take a second and get the needle on his gauge. I'm at it. Get his needle. It's actually a sculpted detail. Okay, now for the flammable markings. Let's make sure I've actually got this in. Got it in camera. The question is focus, which I can't see, so. Trying to mimic the permanent transportation symbols for fire as best I can, and that's gonna have to do, so not too bad. Might need to consider a different brush next time I do something like that though. So let's finish up the base. Okay, let that dry, and then base them. Alright, time to finish up. White glue, I use Elmer's glue. All there's other brands, I'm sure they're fine too. This might be clogged a bit. I'm gonna have to try to clear that later. Right now, well, that's frustrating. Alright, I'll have to figure out what's up with my glue bottle later. That's enough to work with, so. water dilute into a solution. And where's my sacrificial brush? This thing was getting pretty beat up and it got hit with some spilled casting resin the other day, so let's get some use out of it still. Let's carefully paint around the feet. And give it a dip in the materials, which this is a mix of several types of talus or rock debris. And I'm looking for another brush. Not that one. That'll do. Lightly dust the excess off the boot here. Problem I have with this camera is I'm not exactly certain which way the lens is pointing. It puts confusion on me as to where I need to have my hands and the item I'm working on. And I've missed. Oh, there it is. In terms of the basic material, it's really whatever you want to use. And I tend to do custom scenic bases for my Malifaux and Relic Knights models, while using flock or sand or talus for Warhammer and War Machine models. I should specify Warhammer 40,000 though, since I don't collect and play Age of Sigmar. And I actually have almost no interest in that game, but that's me. But from what I understand, fiction-wise, Age of Sigmar is a rebranded Warhammer Fantasy, and they basically went Planet of the Apes on the old Warhammer Fantasy franchise to start over, which debatably makes the short 2-episode web series Ravendel's Quest by Carl the Deranged seems to make that canon, apparently. And that is something else I would not recommend unless you're basically immune to obscenities. It's funny. There's a lot of swearing in it, so I do recommend it, but I am going to warn you about the vulgarity. Okay. Gonna let that dry for a bit and then seal it. And always make sure to clean out your brushes as thoroughly as you can after, well, anything you do with them. It just helps make them last longer. Last step, taking scenic cement and an eyedropper, and this bottle is just about shot. I have a nice full spare on hand. Let's move that a little farther away from the picture plane here. And carefully drop it into the basic material. If you I can get a shot from the front here. Gonna try anyway. I don't know if it's in focus or not. Carefully dripping it on. Material will absorb this very easily, but the reason you need to let it dry a bit first is that if you don't, this will push your material around and leave gaps and holes. And also why you have to be so careful with dropping it on in, dang it, in measured doses. I have had no grip for the last couple of weeks. I am just chalking it up to exhaustion. Okay. I'm gonna need a little more cement. Okay, that's got it. Cleaning out the tools thoroughly. And that is it. A full, well, not a full, but a 5-man, a full box set of Burna Boyz, complete with a spanner equipped with a custom Mega Blaster. And that is it for this video. I am Ian Stokey with Mastermind Games, signing out.